envelopes are again one of our fields of presumed knowledge. The four-stage ADSR envelope is so utterly standard that when people encounter some kind of variation on the theme, it remains almost unexplored in their sound design. This is an oversight that we're going to try and rectify by exploring adjustable slopes and loopable envelopes. To start with, we're just going to have a very quick look at one envelope option that you may have seen or played with before, and that's the adjustable curve or slope of an envelope stage. Most envelope generators, or VCA or EG, whatever it may be called, contain different curvature options. This may be as simple as an option for linear or exponential curves, or it may be as complex as a user-defined slope. Linear curves follow a straight course. They go from value A to value B at a rate defined by the envelope setting. Exponential curves do not. They follow a simultaneously steeper and shallower course as they make their transition from value A to value B, and because of this, they mimic some of the properties of acoustic instruments like pizzicato violin plucks, piano, snare drums, etc. Let's have a quick listen to both options in F-Expansion Strobe, using the envelope applied to a low-pass filter on a sawtooth wave. You can hear how when the linear mode is on, the sound is much more present, but loses some of its transient pluck. The nonlinear or exponential curve emphasizes the transient properties of the envelope to a greater extent than the linear. This is a very useful property to exploit in your sound design. If you're after percussive sounds or if you're after aggressive bass sounds, this is definitely a good envelope option to choose. Loopable envelopes are awesome. They function as a sort of mutant fusion of an LFO and an envelope, and they allow for some really cool sound design possibilities to be explored. The vast majority function by repeating the decay to sustain phase of the ADSR. At its most basic, this means that the envelope goes through its attack phase and then becomes a repeating downward sawtooth wave. By varying the rate of decay and the amount of sustain, we can get very different tones that benefit from automation. I'll let you hear a couple examples back in Strobe using an envelope applied to filter cutoff. Sometimes the loop exists solely within the sustain phase. In Massive, various different sustain loop presets can be drawn upon to create wild results. At longer rates, these loops can become almost like a step sequence. Let's have a listen to one applied to a similar sawtooth patch, and again affecting the filter cutoff. Loopable envelopes are also great to use on things like panning when you're programming spatial effects or transition noises. In this case, we're going to listen to a simple rising tone in Massive with a looped envelope controlling the panning. We're also going to map an LFO to the length of the sustain loop, which gives us a very complex result, as the LFO is going to cause the sustain loop to go from a very fast cycle to a very slow cycle and back again. Envelopes are not always simply four-stage modulation generators. If you have more options at your disposal, use them. Different curves yield different results, and loopable points change their role in sound design completely. They can be great sources of modulation in less than obvious ways, and they can help you create very complex sounds quickly.